Hey, what's up? What's going on? Hey, Joe Moss here, also known as Dad, and this is my son Josiah, who I'm so excited to have on the show today. And we're just working on building a better relationship with God, and which is allowing us to build a better relationship with each other, you know. And so over the years, we're going to talk about just a little bit about what's going on now and how we're working on building a true relationship with Christ and being able to hear God's voice in the midst of everything that's kind of going on. So what's up, Josiah? Tell me what's going on, man. How you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good, Dad. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. Are you excited to be on the show today?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you think about it, man? So far?
Well, yeah, it's a pretty cool setup that you have going on here.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I try, man. I try. Sometimes when I'm away from home, this is where I am, man. I spend my time going before God and trying to put together things that we can listen to, that we can hear, that will help encourage other people to grow their personal relationship with God. What do you think about that?
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Okay. So let's start off with talking about the time when you came to me and you were asking me about, how do I hear from God? Or how do you hear from God? How do you know let's talk about that a little bit. So remember the day? Remember that day?
Yeah.
What happened?
You said what happened?
Yeah, tell me what happened.
Well, I just had a feeling, that God was trying to tell me something. I just didn't know how to respond, and that I wasn't exactly sure if what I was hearing was real. So the question I asked you was, I don't know if I'm hearing from God, just to have like clarity that this feeling that I have right now is real.
Oh, that's good. That's good. And so, do you remember what we went and we started talking about? Remember, I took you to what? First Samuel, chapter 3, and we read verses 1 through 10. Remember that?
Yeah.
Talking about Eli and Samuel when he was a young boy. So you think we should share some of those verses so that people can understand kind of the conversation that we had?
Yeah. Why not?
All right, so let's do this. So if you have your Bibles, right now I'm in First Samuel, chapter 3. Okay. And we're going to read verses 1 through 10 so we can kind of get the context of the story. It said, "Now the boy Samuel ministered to the Lord before Eli, and the word of the Lord was rare in those days." It says, "There was no widespread revelation. And it came to pass at that time, while Eli was lying down in his place, when his eyes began to grow so dim that he could not see." And it says, "And before the lamp of God went out in the tabernacle of the Lord, where the ark of God was. And while Samuel was lying down, the Lord called Samuel, and he answered. He said, 'Here I am.' So he ran to Eli, and Eli said, 'Here I am, for you called me.' And he said, 'I did not call you. Lie down again.' And he went and he laid down. Okay. Then the Lord called yet again, 'Samuel.' So Samuel rose and went to Eli and said, 'Here I am, for you called me.' He answered, 'I did not call, my son. Lie down.' Now, Samuel did not yet know the Lord, nor was the word of the Lord yet revealed to him. And the Lord called Samuel again the third time. So he arose and went to Eli and said, 'Here I am, for you did call me.' Then Eli perceived that the Lord had called the boy. Therefore Eli said to Samuel, 'Go, lie down, and it shall be. And if he calls you, that you must say, Speak, Lord, for your servant hears. So Samuel went and lay down in his place. Now the Lord came and stood and called as other times, Samuel, Samuel. And Samuel answered, Speak, for your servant hears. Then the Lord said to Samuel, Behold, I will do something in Israel at both ears of everyone who hears will tingle. So here's the deal. You remember when we shared those scriptures with you?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so here we are. We have a situation where we have God is actually speaking to Samuel. And Samuel thinks that it's Eli's voice because normally when God would speak, I guess Eli would relay the message and that's what the voice would sound like. And so you talked about, what did you talk about? How would you know? Go ahead. Yes, you wanted to know how did you know what God was, if it was God speaking to you?
Yeah.
Remember the demonstration that I gave you after we read that? What was the demonstration? Do you remember that?
No, not really.
All right. So remember I told you to say your name without saying it out loud, right?
Yeah.
Remember that? All right, Josiah, say your name without saying it out loud. Just and actually said, just Josiah, did you hear it? Right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, yeah, I heard my voice. I heard something said. And I said, well, that's often how God speaks to us, where we can hear it, but everybody else may not hear it. But you got to be in that place where it's like still, it's small, so that you can actually hear from God clearly. Because he may be saying something to me that he's not saying to you, Josiah, right?
Yeah.
And he may be saying something to you that he may not be saying to me. And we got to stay close and stay in his word and understand that God is speaking to us even as young children, correct?
Right.
Right. So let's once you recognize that that was God's voice that was speaking to you, what happened from there? Tell us a little bit about the vision and you going before God and some of the things that he told you in kind of full detail, and just talk about the vision for right now.
Um, so I was in bed praying, and next, something just came to me that, I wasn't thinking of in that moment originally. So when it came to me, I was like, Lord, is that you? This is really something that you want me to do, Lord. Allow it to happen. Show me how to do it. So eventually, you know, I prayed and prayed on it some more to make sure that this is what needs to happen. So yeah.
Okay. Good deal. So what was it that God shared with you? Tell us, can you tell us the vision that God shared with you? Well, you wrote it down, so
Yeah, I did wrote it down.
yeah, you did write it down. All right, so just tell us the vision of what you can remember what he told you. Okay, go ahead.
So at the moment, I was in a position where like I just couldn't grow anymore. So I just really needed, you know, to move on from it. But once I moved on, I didn't know exactly where to go yet. So what God was sharing with me was that next step on where I needed to go in order to make the whole vision come true.
Okay. So, can you share some more specifics about the vision that you were given?
So God shared with me, I'm not exactly sure, but he was like, Sharon, and at the time,
So, give us some more details on that because everyone doesn't know what that means and where you were and what's going on. So, you got to fill people in on the details.
all right, so Sharon is the high school that my dad went to, and all my uncles and my aunts went to, and my grandfather went to. So basically, at the time where I was at, as far as school, it just, I just started like to slip away from all that because, during, I wrestle, and like during wrestling season and stuff, I just felt kind of like restricted to the point where I just couldn't grow to the point where I could feel like I could be continuing on continuing to reach and strive towards my full potential. So at the time, you know, I was going through options of other schools, mainly in PA. 'Cause that was where like the main wrestling hub is, but Sharon wasn't an option originally. So when it came to me, I was kind of surprised because, it wasn't like a part of my own plan that I had for me, but knowing that it was God's plan and that, I had to trust in him, it gave me more of like a better feeling on the situation, knowing that he had me all the way.
Mm. So you're at a school in Ohio, and you're praying for God to give you a vision because the situation that you're in wasn't the greatest. Is what you're trying to say.
Yeah,
And so when God gives you this vision, you're telling me that it wasn't your will. It wasn't the way that you saw that it could be.
right.
Mm. So so now you're in a situation, you got this vision, it's in the middle of the school year, right?
Hmm.
And you went and you wrote it down. So what's the next part of it? So now you got to take this vision somewhere else, right?
Right.
So what happens now? Tell us the feeling that you had um, with this vision, trying to with the some of the thoughts that were going to your head, because now you got to present this thing to your parents.
Yeah.
Tell us what that feeling was like.
It was definitely an interesting feeling because, it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't an option. Like it wasn't something that we really talked about much at all as far as like Sharon being an option. Um so when I took it to them, they were generally surprised at what it was and what I wrote down. So with that feeling right there, I was kind of nervous at first too, because I didn't know how exactly they were going to respond to it. But
So would you say that you were nervous, scared, happy, glad, sad? What was like what were you experiencing in that moment that you had to share the vision with your parents?
I was kind of nervous at first because even when showing them, I wasn't exactly sure how the whole vision was actually going to like be able to happen.
Mm. So it's like one of those things where you had the vision, God gave it to you. It wasn't what you thought about it, wasn't what you actually originally thought, and now you're in a situation where you're gonna find a way to trust God, right?
Yeah.
So did you so how did you get the courage to take it to your parents?
Uh, like you always say, trust God and go.
That's what I said. That's what I say. All right. So now what happens is that it goes back to almost, back to the scriptures where we're dealing with this young boy, Samuel, that's hearing from God, right? And God now is speaking to him, and he's hearing from God. Samuel, the young boy in the scriptures, is hearing from God. Now, he gets this word from God. And let's read just a little bit about that as well. So it says that verse 12 says that in the day I will perform against Eli all that I have spoken concerning the house from beginning to end. For I have told him that I will judge his house forever for the iniquity which he knows, because his sons have made themselves vile, and he did not restrain them. And therefore I have sworn to the house of Eli that the iniquity of Eli's house shall not be atoned by the sacrifice or offering forever. And so it says in verse 15, it says, so Samuel lay down until morning and opened the doors of the house of the Lord. And Samuel was afraid to tell Eli the vision. So what we're saying is that sometimes God will give you a vision. He'll speak to you. And the thing that he gives you, you may not feel comfortable talking about. You may not feel, you literally may feel afraid to actually share the whole entire vision that God has given you. And so Josiah is talking about a situation where here it is. He's in the middle of school, the middle of the year. It's at school and at a school in Ohio. And God gives him a vision about going to a school in Pennsylvania. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that what happens? Okay. And so now he has to take this vision and share it with his dad and share it with his mom. So why, let me ask you this. Why were you afraid to share it with your dad? I mean, I'm just be honest with me. Why were you afraid to share it with your dad? What is intimidating about me, or why were you uneasy about that?
I just didn't know exactly how you would respond to it.
Oh, so why do you think you thought I was going to respond? And well, how do you think I was going to respond?
I don't know. That's what I was afraid of.
Oh, you were afraid of the unknown.
Yeah.
Look at that. He wasn't sure. He didn't know. And there is a fear in that. And it's okay to be afraid sometimes in situations like that. But guess what? What did you do? Even with that fear that you had, what did you do?
Showed you the vision.
Showed it anyways. So sometimes when God showed you something, it may be different than what you thought it was going to be. And there also may be a fear in actually expressing it. But he did it anyways. I'm so proud of you, son, for being so courageous and going to God yourself, getting the vision and listening to God, and then having the courage to actually share it. So would you say that the courage to actually share this vision came from reassurance that you knew it came from God?
Yeah.
So how did that help you? So knowing that it came from God, what did that do for your confidence level?
Well, it was just like I'm not exactly sure how to explain it, but I just knew that I just relying on myself just wasn't working for me anymore. So knowing that God had me the whole time and knowing that it came straight from him, that it was his plan that he had for me, gave me the extra confidence I needed.
That's good. That's good. So you had to surrender.
Yeah.
You had to surrender your will. And then you had to do what? Submit to God's will.
Yeah.
Yeah. So after that, we had to do what? We had to, I told you to go back and do what now? What the timing thing? Remember I told you that? I told you to what? Go back to God and what? Find out the timing. I told you to take the vision. Now go back and pray and ask God when this should happen.
All right. Yep.
Remember that?
Yeah.
So what happened after that? Because we're sitting mid school year here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you get this vision, and then we're trying to. And I told you, I said, listen, there's a timing thing. And to be honest with you, I thought we were probably about 2 years away from this. That's what I thought in my head. I was like, yeah, well, maybe by his junior year, maybe we'll get him over to PA to be able to get his academics together and carry on whatever um, sports or leadership roles he may play over in that school. Because I was trying to figure out, okay, well, moving and that type of stuff and housing situation. I'm just trying to figure out like, well, just gonna leave it alone. I'm gonna have faith that in God that what my son is saying is the absolute truth and the vision that God gave him. And if this is what God wants, we will yield and go with what God is telling us to do. Do you know that? Do you know that's where it was with that?
No.
Yeah, man. That's where I was with that. And so we go back, and you said you went and you prayed on a timing thing, right?
Yeah.
And what was that like?
Um, I just kind of just like went with it.
What do you mean?
No, I just asked. I just kept on praying on it, and eventually it was revealed to me.
What was revealed to you?
Um, so I prayed about it. Then I don't know, something came about like November 1st.
Okay.
So yeah, it said November 1st is gonna be my last day or whatever. So November 1st comes around, and it was a Friday. There was no school, but there was still a football game, so I had to perform in band during halftime and all that
And
good stuff.
you're at the high school right now. That's
Yeah.
where you were at that time.
Yep.
Okay.
Then the next day, it was wrestling signups.
Okay.
So before we went, I was just thinking in my head, man, I really don't want to do this. I was like, God, I want to wrestle this year. But I don't want to wrestle like this. So when we arrived at the place at the school to sign up, nobody was there.
Mm.
We tried all the doors. We tried to peek inside. Nobody was there. So, that was kind of like a reassurance, but I don't know. Then the next day or whatever, it was Sunday. What, Monday? Yeah, it was Monday. So Saturday, we went to the school for signups. Nobody was there. Then that Monday, that's when the process started for me to actually get transferred over and stuff. So in a total, it probably took what 7 or 8 days to get me completely transferred to the new school.
Wow. Wow. So you saw the vision. You stepped out and you went to God and asked him to show you what your next steps are, the next things to do, and he shows it to you. Right?
Right,
And then you go and you find the courage and confidence that you have in God to share this thing with your parents while you're afraid. So you did it scared, correct?
right,
And then then after that, you went to God and you asked him about the timing of when this should happen. And he tells you November 1st. That's what you're telling me?
hmm
Wow. And then you're telling me that it was reaffirmed by that Saturday signups weren't, the guys were gone, nobody was there to sign up. And then you tell me that next Monday the process began.
yeah,
Wow. Wow. Amazing. But guess what? I didn't hear that. God didn't speak to me directly on that. Who did he speak to?
me,
He spoke to you. And so having a personal, so tell me the value of having a personal relationship with God yourself. Tell me the value of that, man. And being able to hear from God yourself. Go ahead.
I think it's definitely important to have your own relationship with God. Because you can miss out on a lot of opportunities that God has like set for you that you can miss every single time because you're not talking to Him, you're not listening to Him, and that's the thing. I mean, like I'm striving to become my best and fulfill the plan that God has for me. And if I didn't listen, that would be a step that I completely missed, and I would just be stuck where exactly I was.
Wow. Wow. So now you are, that's amazing, man. So proud of you, dude. Seriously. So now you're at Sharon, right?
Yeah,
And you're living out the vision that God has given you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So it just happened like boom, like just almost like suddenly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. So I do want to get into, because I think sometimes people misunderstand that when when these things happen, that it's just gonna be easy. Is that the truth?
Yeah.
It's just easy, huh? That it's just that everything that happens is just easy, or is there some difficulty and some challenges that go with this?
Difficulties.
Tell us about, just some of the difficulties, and see if you can, for anybody out there that has a vision, what you can do to encourage them to trust God and go.
What do you want me to do again?
So I want you to talk about some of the, so after you're playing this thing out, tell them how it can be challenging and that discouragement can set in. Talk about that, and then say something to keep people encouraged to follow what it is to trust God and go.
Was a week before that. So it was still October when God showed me it. So I'm sitting there. I was like, I pulled out my phone and looked on the calendar app. I was like, oh man, that's next week. I don't know where is that going to happen. So, next week rolls by and I'm still there. I'm like, is this really right? Is this actually going to happen? Then, what I didn't realize is that, um,
So you didn't realize it was going to how challenging it was going to be, and you weren't prepared that it was going to happen this quick.
yeah. So yeah, after the first ended, that next week I was still over at Liberty, but it just wasn't the same feeling. Like, I don't know. So I continued the week out. The next, on that Friday, at the week after the first, on that Friday, I still my mom was like, she called the school or whatever. She went to the school over at Sharon, and she said, "Well, you might be able to start next Tuesday." I was like, "Oh man, next Tuesday." So that Friday, the following Friday after the first, was my official last day at Liberty.
Mm.
So I definitely didn't expect it to happen all that fast like that, but it did end up working out to where, I'm here now. I still got time to still get used to it and adjust so I can, like, you know, continue to fill out the plan God has for me.
That's good. That's good stuff, man. Good stuff. Once again, I'm telling you, man, I'm proud of you, man, for you being faithful and you trusting God and going on this. And one of the things that as a parent, I had to yield to whatever plan that God has for us, for our lives. And that was huge. Being able to let go, being able to trust God and go. And I just love the fact that all these things that we're teaching, how we're just reading this word of God every day, praying and working out and educating ourselves and recovering, and the excitement as a parent to know that he's picking up on these principles. So all those that are out there that are praying and have been praying for us, we so much appreciate your prayers. So much, because they're working. God is good, and trust God and go is has been our motto. And sometimes God will test your faith as a parent to be able to trust that your children are building their relationship with Christ. And so we're all making adjustments, trying to see how this thing is working, but we know if it's God's plan, it will work. So like he told you, he had to surrender his will because what God showed him was something that he was not thinking about. Is that what you're telling us, right?
Yeah.
And once you receive that, you're like, well, God, if this is your plan, I'm committing to your plan. Is that what you had to do?
Yeah.
Yeah, had to commit to God's plan. And it's been an adjustment, huh?
Oh yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. So it hasn't been easy, huh?
Mm-mm.
Not in any way, shape, or form, huh?
Nope.
Yeah, but we know that we're gonna trust God and go. So I want you, before we get off today, to say something encouraging that will inspire people that may be going through something tough in their life. You know what I mean? Just encourage them. Whatever comes to you, go ahead and share it with them. You got it. It's in you, man. I believe in you. Let's go. You got it. Let's go.
So I'm just supposed to encourage the person
Yes.
asking.
Yep. Yep.
All right. So I have a quote. I've been waiting to use this quote for a while now. So it goes like this: It doesn't matter if the dog's a fighter. It matters how much fight is in the dog. So whatever challenge or person you may be facing or whatever, it may seem like a big challenge, but if you have enough will in you to push forward, even though it may be hard and a big challenge, you can still come out on top.
That's good. But what happens if you quit? What happens if you quit?
Happens if you quit.
Yeah. If you quit anywhere in the process, what happens?
Well, you either fall off on the progress that you already made, or you just stay stuck where you're at.
So you will never fulfill it.
Yep.
So a huge part of, would you say that a huge part of having a relationship with God would be faith?
Yeah.
Having faith. Would you say that?
Yeah.
Would you say that there's some of the things that God tells us to do, we just can't see every way, and we just gotta trust?
Yeah.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff. So that's gonna compute. What did I say? Complete complete our interview for today, our session for today. What do you want to call it? Our conversation or whatever. But hopefully, you've been blessed by just this interaction today. But I want to show you that even being a young boy, growing man, that it's you can begin to build your relationship with Christ. Can you share a little bit about your morning routine as far as the time you wake up, kind of what you do real quick for everybody? Just to so you wake up, and what else do you do when you wake up early in the morning? You get up about what time?
5:30.
Say that again.
5:30
5:30 p.m.
a.m.
5:30 a.m. And what do you do at 5:30 a.m.?
So I get up. I sit there to completely like wake up for a few minutes. Then normally I would get out my devotional, read whatever day that I'm on or whatever day it is. Then after that, I would normally go and pray, and ask God to give me the ability and strength to push through my day, whatever challenges that may come with it, you know. And that's how normally I would start my day. Then I would go downstairs and eat, eat breakfast and stuff.
That's good stuff, man. So live out your faith. Would you encourage others to live out their faith?
Yeah.
Encourage others to live out their faith. So this concludes our session for today. I want you to be the best you in everything you do, every day, in every way. Much love to you. This is Coach Joe, and this is
Josiah.
Peace. We're out. Much love.